My name is Morgann Freeman. I am a community organizer here in Omaha, Nebraska. I use either she or they pronouns. I originally started organizing in social justice spaces and for movement work around 2015, around Michael Brown's murder. And coming out of that, being confronted with the reality that I no longer could wait for somebody else to change things. Responsibility doesn't necessarily fall on me as an obligation, but if I do want to see that change, I have to be a part of that change. Well, in general, whenever we're talking about social issues, especially really complex social structures, like recognizing that there is no concrete, all-inclusive definition of what those social systems are, is because like white supremacy is about peak whiteness, right? So it's about this concept of Eurocentrism that is so deeply tied to this idea that white people are supreme beings, like not just that they are human, but they are the ultimate humanity, and that everyone else is other, and then how that permeates every facet of our culture. So it permeates how we understand race, gender, sexuality, how we understand and interact with other cultures, how we understand and interact with other nations. Like it impacts everything. And so when we're talking about white supremacy, we're talking global macro issues, but we're also talking about like the immense privilege to live a life where you're benefiting from every single one of these systems intersecting. You are automatically, intrinsically accepted into every space, and that your reality is never questioned. And you never have to carry more than just who you are. I walk into a space and people either assume or ascribe everything that they see about me, and then everything that they've heard about me, and then it becomes, I literally go from being just like a human being walking in the door to being this scary activist, angry Black woman. This is actually what gets me in trouble with my fellow organizers all the time, because I believe that our current capitalist system is crony capitalism. So it's literally white supremacy in economic form. And the problem with that is that the only people that will ever benefit from capitalism in its current form is going to be the people that are already benefiting from it. And it will just continue to exponentially empower them and disenfranchise everyone else. I believe in humanistic capitalism, which is because, and let me explain, because I don't necessarily think that the concept of capitalism in its pure form is inherently immoral. I don't necessarily think that the concept of socialism in its inherent form is inherently immoral, though I do believe that the times that it's been implemented have resulted in immoral and unjust realities for the people that have to live there. Like there's a reason why people don't like socialism, and I'm not going to invalidate that. I think that the concept of socialism, however, is not immoral. I think that what we need is an economic model that is some blend of the two. We need to like get used to like doing the hard work of figuring out a way forward where we're, instead of falling for one comprehensive idea that kind of sort of fits. We're now in 2020. Like we're now at a point where we have enough research, we have enough resources, we have enough intellects, we have enough we have enough of everything where we should be able to figure out a path forward. We just need to do the work. We need to like leave our egos at the door, leave all of the hashtags and headlines and like witty clips at the door, and work on the issues themselves. White supremacy and capitalism go hand in hand in America, and it's in large part because of who the founding fathers had in mind when they created this country. It was never intended to benefit anyone other than the people that it was benefiting at the time. Like, they never foresaw a reality where you and I would be in the spaces that we're in. They never saw a reality where there would be any sort of equity or human dignity to anyone that was not a white, educated, property-owning, cisgender, heterosexual man. Like, they did not even think there's any possibility for us to be here, period. So we're re-envisioning an America that's outside of the bounds of what it was intended to be. So when we're talking about looking at these systems, that's where we're starting, is completely dismantling everything from the foundation and rebuilding. The beautiful part about Omaha is that a lot of the blessed boycotts began here. Like, a lot of the organizing tactics that were used all across the country were happening here too. Sit-ins and literal divestment from white communities and white support and all of that was happening here. And that was happening here in the 50s. And then the 60s begins to explode with an intolerance of the reality that we've been forced into. And you start to see the civil rights movement explode all across the country, and you see all these beautiful marches that are happening, demonstrations that are happening, and there's conversations that are happening, and finally we get these bills passed in 1963 and 1964. I think that people were burnt out. And so when Vivian Strong was murdered, a girl was murdered by a police officer, the white response was to shut down access to any other area of town. And the only area of town that was left for a grieving and infuriated community was its own. And so that led to the North Omaha riots, where 24th Street was completely demolished. And then on top of that, later, the city council decides to build a hotel that cuts off North Omaha from downtown. And then a year after that, the city council approves a highway that cuts through North Omaha and demolishes businesses all throughout, businesses and churches and grocery stores, convenience stores, gas stations, all of the community pieces that you need to be sustainable. All of that was gutted for this highway. And so we went from being a thriving community in 1967 to being completely demolished within 10 years. The police started as slave patrols. They started as organized militias that would go track down slaves and bring them back, dead or alive. Brutality is intrinsic in how white colonialists have dealt with Black people, and especially the Black people that they forced here in the first place. And so when you look at it throughout our history, that specifically has never been collectively addressed and has continued to be a foundation on everything that policing has been throughout our history. So you look at the Emancipation Proclamation and then the Reconstruction era, and you look at how the criminal justice system, especially like in the South specifically, became a new version of slavery, and how police departments and law enforcement agencies became the enforcers of that. And then in 1969, Vivian Strong was murdered by a police officer. And all throughout that time, from the slave patrols in its initial form through to Vivian Strong, police have been intrinsically engaged, not just as an institution, but also individually. Like, we joke about how cops need to take off their hoods, or how cops always put on their hoods when they go home, or how cops are intrinsically tied to the KKK. But we joke about that because it's actually historically, factually correct. Like, we have a long storied history of, and not just here in Omaha, but across the United States, of law enforcement being actively engaged in white supremacist movements, to the point where even the FBI had to do research and studies on this. Like, it's still happening now. And it's never changed because it's always been a pervasive piece of this really oppressive system. So I want to say it's in our Constitution, and if it's not, it's in the Charter of the Charter of the state. But there's specifically this phrase that says the salvation of the state is in the watchfulness of the citizen. And I know every single time I read that, they don't have me in mind. And because of that reason, I need to do everything that I can to make sure that they know I'm watching.